Welcome to MotivationAddict.com with Julie Saillant. This is where you will find inspiring stories on how to motivate yourself and gain momentum towards success, turning fear into confidence, and how to find divine flow, allowing you to crush your goals. Thank you for being here. And now, let's tune in to today's show.
Welcome, everyone, to Motivation Addict. My name is Julie Saillant. I am so thrilled that you are here today. My guest today is Donnie Boivin from Success Champions. He is someone who has over 2 decades of experience in sales, and he's going to show you what it means to be awesome in your business. He's an expert sales professional and the top 200 iTunes podcaster. At the age of 40, he discovered he'd been living other people's dreams and not chasing his own. So he took the biggest risk of his life. He jumped out and he started a business. He had great success at the start, but he quickly understood he knew nothing about being a business owner. So through learning from mistakes and being at the brink of failure, he gained the experience, perseverance, and attitude required to succeed. Some of his speaking topics include podcasting saved my business and it could save yours too, as well as relax, it's just a sales call. Learn the tricks and art of selling while still being you. I know that you're going to enjoy this lively conversation. Donnie is as real as it gets, and he's an icon of influence. He's been everywhere. He's been on Pathways to Success, Listen Live, and the New Media Summit. So hope you love this interview, and take a listen and talk to you soon.
I came from 20 years in sales. I kept trying to do sales stuff. I wanted to be a motivational speaker, so I was speaking on stages. I wanted to do podcasts. Well, I'll explain how I got into podcasting. I didn't really want to do podcasts because I didn't know anything about it at this point. But I was trying to be a coach. I was trying to be a trainer. I was trying to be whatever I could do to make revenue come into the business. But nothing, because 1, I was scattered too thin. 2, I was half-assing everything because I would spend hours on YouTube trying to freaking figure something out, right? Yeah. And then, another day's worth of time trying to build all this shit. And then I'd have no game plan, no strategy, no anything. So it hit the market just so half-assed that it just had no effect on anything. And I mean, I was picking up clients here and there, but nothing to bring in enough revenue. And literally at that speech, I said I was going out Bon Jovi style and I was going to leave everything on the stage, and I did. And luckily, a guy in the audience walked up to me and said, "Man, I love your energy. I love your vibe. Would you come tell your story on my podcast?" And I said, "What the hell is a podcast?"
Wow.
This was April of 2017.
Wow.
Excuse me, April of 2018. I'm sorry, 2018. And I went on a show and we had a great time. Unfortunately, his show is gone now. It did what they call pod faded. Okay. I had one podcaster like, "Oh, were you that bad on a show? You shut the show down?" I'm like, "No, it wasn't me."
Nice. Thanks for that nice question. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you.
But I went on a show and we had a blast. And luckily, one of his listeners reached out to me to seek out some sales advice. And so they became a coaching client of mine. And I went, holy crap, I can go on shows and become, find clients, hold my beer and watch this shit because the thing's about to get carried away. And then from that day, when I got picked up that first client, within 30 days later, I was a guest on 67 podcasts. I went nuts.
Wow.
And that's what started me down the path of podcasting. And that's what helped me figure it out that, and really it was episode 50, or not episode, excuse me, about around the 50th interview that I did, that I happened to get on a guy's show just for sake of sanity, was really bad. He was a horrible host.
Aww.
It was really, really shitty. And I said, man, if this guy can have any success, I'm launching a show. So I did. And my first podcast was called the Run Like Hell Podcast. I made it 7 episodes before I shut it down because I did it like I was doing everything else. I did the YouTube searches. I did, everything. But then I started at half-assed. I started without a game plan. I started without agenda. I did hire a kind of a coach in the studio. Bless her heart, she was amazing, awesome. when you go into anything and you don't know why you're going into it, there's just nothing there.
Right.
So I, shut that show down. You can still go find it. It's out there. Shut that show down and brought it all back in house and, launched Success Champions. And that's the one that took off. But even when I launched Success Champions, there was a lot of self-discovery of, okay, what am I this show going to be about? What am I going to do? What's the point of it? What do I want to accomplish? And how do I make that a revenue stream for my business? How do I use it as a lead development tool? And I realized even starting it, I had no idea. I mean, I had no clue how any of this worked or functioned. So I knew I just had to produce the best damn show I could put on. And then let the frickin' world know that I was here. And so I went full offense and deployed every tactic I could from, I think I did 10 episodes before I finally hired an editor to come in and edit the show, because I was doing the recording, the interviews, then editing, added music.
You were editing and everything?
Everything. So I would record. So this is how stupid I was when I started with my show.
That's crazy.
Every Friday, I was recording 9 interviews, hour long, back to back with no breaks.
What?
Because I launched a daily show. I set a trap for myself that said, I knew I had to get a ton of content to be able to do a daily show, because I thought that's what I needed to do to win. It was, I was listening to a lot of the gurus of the day, and they're like, put out a ton of content, do this. I'm like,
right.
Going all in. Fine. I'm going all in.
Yeah.
So I had like 30 episodes preloaded when I launched. So I knew when I hit, if I hit any bad spots, I could, have shows in a hopper. And luckily, when I got grabbed to go speak in Ireland on podcasting, I was in Ireland for 2 weeks with my wife. I had shows already recorded that we could just auto-populate for it. But we built an entire, sales process and strategy around podcasting. We built revenue models and everything else to bring in to help me get my brand out there. And that's, which led me into a lot of consulting and everything else. And that's why I tell everybody podcasting saved my business, because it taught me processes. It taught me procedures. It taught me systems. And I think the greatest lesson I learned is if anybody's building anything to do it themselves, they're creating a job. And so a lot of my first 6 months was I was creating a job for myself. I wasn't creating a company, because everything was, I got to do it. I've got to be that guy.
So everyone, he just did a post on this because I saw it yesterday. And I was going to ask you about it, because I didn't comment, because I said, I'm going to have him on today because Donnie's amazing and he's an icon. Met him at New Summit. And I'd like you to talk about that a little bit, because as we're getting into it, so I've got a little bit of the same trajectory as you. I've had, 20 years of sales experience. I know what it takes to get out there. I'm the same person as you. If you tell me to go in, I am going in. Like I'm there, I'm doing it. And as we were saying, you're listening to all these people and you're here and you're there and you're trying your best. You really are. But what's the mindset shift that someone needs to make between creating a job for themselves, which is awesome, to creating and running a business?
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for following my stuff too, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I like my content, so other people's. But no, I mean, that was my biggest struggle. Is I spent 20 years in the sales game, as an employee, even when I was a partner of a firm. And I was actually when I jumped out on my own in 2017, I was in the process of buying out that business. It was a 7-figure deal over 5 years. And before I jumped, but even then, being a partner in the company, I still had an employee mindset. I didn't realize how big of a difference there was from being the person who just does stuff versus the person who creates stuff. And so in sales, you go out, you find the prospect, you close the prospect, you bring the prospect in, and you rinse, wash, repeat. Somebody else kind of usually takes care of all the other stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
always.
So I was good at that. Well, now when I launched my company, I'm in a position where I was going to do stuff, and now I've got to deliver all the stuff that I was doing. So it was this constant, Okay, we got a deal closed. Let's get that deal going with no continued prospecting on the front end. It's like I forgot how to be a salesperson.
Right.
I was constantly caught up in the doing of things, or as they call it in some of the books out there, I was working in the company, not on the company.
Right.
And because I was doing the day-to-day activities, and I wasn't looking at anything from the perspective of how can I put a process to this that somebody else can do. And I often hear from a lot of people now, they're like, how do I, outsource my sales process? And I said, anybody who says that phrase is an idiot. Because you can't outsource your sales. You can outsource your lead gen, sure. You can automate the whole front end of everything, but you can't outsource your sales because it's your company.
Right.
That means you're outsourcing the lifeblood of your company.
Right.
Doesn't mean you can't automate the whole process, but what you cannot do is if there's a human interaction. Now, if you have a B2C retail Shopify type store, yeah, you automate the whole damn thing. You don't need to talk to anybody. But if you're in the B2B space, especially, and coaching is a B2B game.
Yeah.
And if you're in that space, you're not automating that entire process. Now, there's a lot of people that are going to tell you, do your courses, do your, look. At the end of the day, the biggest thing I had to learn was build a freaking business and then do all the stuff. Because until you start thinking like a business owner, which is how do I remove myself from that process and give it to somebody else, then you're constantly just going to create a job for yourself. And a job is not scalable.
Right.
I remember growing up, one of my, I'll call him a mentor, I was the VP of the company I worked with. He pulled me aside and he said, look, I want you to understand something for the rest of your life. If you are not replaceable, you're unpromotable. Because if I can't replace you in a position, I cannot promote you because you're the only person that can do that job.
Right.
Your job in any position is to groom your next person to come into that spot.
Right.
It's a really scary thought for a lot of people because now they're like, well, where do I go? Well, you either go to that guy's job who gave you the advice, or you go to another company in a better position. And that change scares the crap out of people.
Right.
But without that same mentality in running a business, you're in trouble because you're right back to, well, if it's got to be done right, I got to do it myself.
Right.
And I still struggle with this because I've got, a couple new podcasts I'm launching right now. And in launching those podcasts, I got guys building websites for me and they're doing some automations. And, every bit of my ounce is like, just give me the freaking thing and I'll build it the way I want to. And it's really hard because you want to get your hands in there and do all this stuff because it's hard to go from a visual thought process of what you have and tell somebody else exactly what you want to create. And, an entrepreneur buddy of mine always put it this way. He's like, it's really hard to outsource your creative.
True.
Because nobody can see what's going on in your head.
Right.
All you can do is put out enough stuff that you hope they can understand it, but it's still on you to QC it and everything else. But that's the biggest shift is looking at whatever you're doing and going, all right, how do I get this off my plate? Not because I hate doing it, right? Because a lot of people will do what I call a dump and run. Is they're like, oh, I don't like marketing. I don't like social media. I don't like this. Let me find somebody that can do all that shit for me. And then they give no direction, no guidance, no anything. They just throw it at somebody.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
No.
You still have to have your hands on it.
Absolutely.
You got to tell them what to do.
Absolutely. And that's hard. I mean, because most people in an employee mindset or have worked a job their entire life, like you and I have, I mean, we may have been over people, but very few sales people that make this leap were sales managers. Right. Because sales managers are usually people that want to stay in the mid-level, management type game. They're not looking to be presidents of companies and stuff. But your salespeople are usually 1 foot on crazy all the time.
Pretty much. You have to be. You have to be. And the managers don't want that. They just want to massage everything and make the big deals, which is great. There's a place for them, but it's a completely different animal than being on the streets and really talking to people, as well as, the owners of the company who are way up here and they're just looking at numbers all day. Yeah. It's a completely different thought process. So if you can outsource something, that's a good thing to do, but you still have to have your hands on it. I outsource a lot of my social media, not because I'm not good at it, because I can do it, but I don't want to do it.
Right.
It's a lot of work. So, you're talking about, you've got a lot going on right now, right?
Mhm.
You are massively building, branching out even farther. You're having a couple more podcasts that you're adding?
Yeah. So it's interesting is I had somebody ask me on LinkedIn the other day, they're like, have you found your rhythm wasn't the word, but basically it's what the word they use. I can't remember what the word they said. And what they were asking is, if you look at the content, especially on LinkedIn that I put out, you're hearing part my story, my journey, my struggles, my frustrations. Part you're hearing me talking about podcasting. And I think he was getting confused by the message I was putting out there.
Okay.
Yeah. And what I responded to him, because I'll respond to every comment that comes on there, and it's me. I mean, every social platform you see out there that I'm putting content on, it's me. But what I responded with is everything along my journey so far, that especially these last couple of years of running this business, year and a half, whatever it is, of running this business, everything I've done has led to me exactly where I'm at. Because somewhere along my business journey, I started a content development company. I realized that when I was interviewing people on podcasts, that I was capturing a ton of social content.
Mm-hmm.
So I put together a team of people that we were selling packages to everybody I interviewed, a package that if you wanted this interview, we would pull me out of the interview, zoom in on you, and we would scrub that for micro content. So you would get micro videos, you'd get blog posts, you'd get social graphics, and we were selling these packages. And
That's brilliant.
It was working beautifully. It wasn't scalable only because I couldn't figure out how to sell it outside of the interviews. And I could only do so many interviews. So we did some good revenue off of it. And people, when they hear it, they really like it. We tried to go the route of empowering other podcasters. Like, look, you're doing all these interviews. Why don't you sell these packages? Well, we went back to the chicken and the egg, because podcasters can't freaking sell. So I was going to have to create these courses and do all this stuff to get these guys and gals to be able to sell these packages. And it was too much work and energy. So we took it to a different direction on the content thing. And we still do some of that, not a whole lot, but interesting. Fast forward to where we're now, and I'm consulting corporations all over the world. Business is about launching podcast, is the biggest thing that I get brought in for now. I mean, I just got put on the Vistage speaker circuit to come in and speak about podcasting and helping companies get a voice for their business, both externally and internally, because people think about podcasting as an external reach. What you don't think about is these big companies that have 20, 50,000 employees. There's no effective model for communicating with them. Well, podcasting is bridging that gap, because we're coming in and helping them launch an internal podcast for their company. But everything that I've done, from the coaching to because helping somebody launch a podcast, it's like a full-on coaching practice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I got to sit down and understand their avatar, and we spend a lot of time. I'm helping a gal by the name of Angie Monroe launch her podcast right now, and it's like a full-on coaching session of figuring everything out. So from public speaking to the content packages, I mean, we're just bringing it all in to help these companies launch their shows.
That's so cool.
And it's a lot of fun. Gives me some gray hairs, because, working with companies, there's a lot more moving parts and a lot more bureaucracy and stuff. But, I spent 7 years as a sales trainer prior to jumping out on my own. So I'm used to working with the bigger companies. But, crazy things like I'll be speaking in London in November at a conference, keynoting for a huge small business event, and I'm coming in to speak on podcasting.
That's awesome.
Right.
That's cool.
Every time I've felt like I was on the brink of screwing this shit up again, that became probably the best asset for me to add to my company to find that next level and the next vibe.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's so inspirational. This is so cool. I love the way that you can kind of maneuver and you go from one thing to another, but it's only maybe because you've had to.
It's 100% because I had.
And it worked out. It worked out.
You know,
Wow.
you know, I've got a great wife sitting behind me too. You know, I put her through hell these last couple of years. Because here's the biggest asshole maneuver I did. I didn't tell her that I was starting my own company. I walked away from that entire deal and everything, launched my own company without telling her. You
Oh,
want to talk about an asshole maneuver?
wow.
And God love her. She looked at me and she goes, I can't believe you did that. I have faith in you. Don't screw this up.
Wow. Okay. All
Right.
right. Yeah.
And then I almost did. Then I had to go back to her almost 6 months later and say, we're going to lose everything. So yeah, I did
Holy
well, huh?
crap. Holy
So,
crap.
but I mean, but you know, in the Rocky movies, he's got one phrase that I just love. And he says, life's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you could take a hit and keep moving forward. And that's it. It is, you know, constantly reminding myself that these punches in the face, as I like to call them, you know, there's something to be learned from that. You know, there's, you know, something to be taken away that you can apply and move forward.
Wow.
So coming back to you, like your stuff and helping you is, you know, if you put this whole thing, you know, and package you up with a very specific marketplace, and you take the things you've done for the last 20 years, you know, and you go full in on that marketplace and you build a beautiful business, you're going to be amazed at what you can do once you have the baseline. Because coming from a state of being broke, which is what happened to me very quickly in my business, because I spent all of our excess cash trying to launch the damn thing.
Yeah.
Makes you into a desperation sales mode, and desperation stinks like hell.
That's not good. No, it's not good. And everybody knows it too.
Yeah.
They could feel it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been successful and you've kind of come back from the brink a couple times. Do you believe that people are natural podcasters, natural salespeople? Do you believe that everyone has their own little thing that they're made to do? You don't.
No, absolutely not. This comes from my sales game. Is I don't think everybody can be taught sales. Let me clarify this before I make the statement. I don't think everybody can learn sales, but I don't think there's anything as a natural born salesperson. I don't think there's a natural born leader. I don't think there's a natural born anything. I think it's the person who's willing to get punched in the face the hardest and keep stepping.
Yeah, I agree.
That figures it out, or they don't, right? I mean, I get it because I run a you know, Facebook group on podcasting. I get a lot of unique questions, and I'll get people in there who are like, you know, I've been running this podcast for 3 years. I'm still getting 100 downloads per episode. You know, should I keep doing this? And I said, no, turn it off. Go start another one, right? I mean, if you love doing this, but it's not working, pivot.
But what's the breaking point? I mean, how do you know when you should say stop?
I don't know the answer.
Is it just revenue stuff's coming in, or it's not? I mean, you could be doing something for a year and you love it and you've got good quality and you've got a great editor, and let's just say for podcasting, and you're enjoying it, but yet how do you know when to say, you know what, it's time I need to get out altogether?
I've only told one person outside of you now to shut their show down. And the reason is I had a guy reach out to me. Him and his wife had a podcast, and I forget the name of it, but the name was confusing. Their show description was all over the map. They had no idea who their avatar was. They did something about network marketing. They did something about coaching, and it was this weird combination. And I said, guys, stop. Pick a message, pick a show, and go. And I said, you know, at this point, you know, I think they were, I don't know, 140 episodes in, and we're getting less than 50 downloads an episode.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, just stop. At this point, you could literally shut your show down completely, start over, and come back at the marketplace with something better and totally crush this show. Well, they did half the advice. They didn't shut the show down, but they did rebrand and everything else. And they came back to me and they said we didn't want to lose our reviews that we had on iTunes and everything, which made sense.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know. I think for me is two phrases kind of kept me going. Is phrase number one was, this is that point where everybody else quits.
Yeah.
And I'm dumb enough to keep going.
Yeah.
The other phrase is this is that moment. This is that moment you read about in the books, you hear about, and all the self-help stuff, all the inspirational stories. And I kept telling myself at some point, I'm going to look back on all of this hell I'm going through, and I'll be on some huge ass stage or interviewed saying, let me tell you, looking at your wife and telling you you're going to lose it all, that's a tough spot.
Yeah, it is.
Because once somebody gets to a certain level on stages and stuff, and you get past your friends and family, you start becoming fictitious. People stop believing your hardcore story, your come up story, or whatever else.
Right.
So I think that's part of the reason I continue to talk about my hard times out there. Is I want proof out there that if people hearing that I really, I'm still going through the shit. I'm still learning to be a business owner. I'm still learning all this stuff and continuing to move forward, because I don't want to get to that point where, where people look at guys like Gary Vee and Tim Ferriss and all that, and they forget that they came from meager beginnings,
I mean, I appreciate that, because that's what I like to listen to. I think that's what the listeners want to hear, that's why I'm asking you these questions how did you push through and go all in on yourself? And, what you said to me the last time we talked really stuck with me. And what Donnie had said was, you need to go all in on you. And I thought I was going all in on me, because I have put in so much effort and time and everything I thought I had in the last 4 months. And then when I talked to you, I thought, have I? Is there anything left? What else could I be doing? And then that always brings me back to, who am I not serving that I should be serving? Who can I reach out to that I can help? Who can I, give some value to?
Well, and I think everybody needs to start wrapping their head around are they playing offense?
Right.
And this was tough for me, because in the darkest times of my companies, which are some of the darkest times of my life, but it's because I wasn't playing offense. I wasn't going out drumming up business, and I was stuck in this whole conundrum of Field of Dreams. If I build it, they will come, and versus having a real strategy. I mean, I was launching Donnie Talks podcast, and this just happened. In the process of launching Donnie Talks podcast, I realized that I was heading down the same damn rabbit hole of my company of, I don't have a revenue model behind this thing. I've got hundreds of people getting ready to help me hit the marketplace and launch this, that, and the other. And here I am, once again, no revenue model, building something out. I finally had the courage and I shut the whole thing down.
Did you really?
Yeah. I had to let a couple hundred people know. Now, nobody's getting paid or anything like that, but I had a lot of fans and a lot of people I called champions that were supporters of mine. And I had to send a message. I'm shutting it down. There's nothing. All it's doing is giving me another job. It's not adding revenue to my business. So I shut it down. Now, I am launching Fort Worth Talks, which is unique. We're going to try and geocode a podcast. It's something that's never been done. I'm going to try and put a podcast just for a city.
That'd be cool.
So we're interviewing the biggest CEOs from the largest companies in town. We have 17 of them already agreed to come on. The mayor of Fort Worth is going to come on. What people don't know is Fort Worth is the 15th largest city in the U.S., almost the 14th largest city in the U.S.
Wow.
And, with that business, we're going in 100% for an advertising play.
That's cool.
So
that's a cool angle. I like it. And I've never even heard of that before.
And I've looked all over. The closest thing we found a show called New York Speaks, I think. And they're just interviewing random people on the street for the most part.
Yeah, that's not going to help a lot of people. As you say, you have to be very focused.
Yeah, I'm very specific. So we know that, there's a lot of business moving into Fort Worth. A lot of people don't look at Fort Worth as a business, place. I have a pretty cool Rolodex of contacts and people I know here. So we're launching the show knowing that there's some big businesses that need access to these CEOs and the people who are going to be listening to the show. So we're going for 100% advertising play revenue stream.
Super cool.
Yeah. So that's all created from learning from all the shit that I've gone through.
All the hard stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, and telling, a couple hundred people that you're not launching something that, I've got email automation sequences and, social. I mean, we put a lot of time and effort into the thing to launch it, and we shut it all down.
But if something inside you telling you that it's not right, and you know that you don't have the revenue, and you've been down this road before, you obviously recognize that's good that you recognized it.
Yeah, thank God.
You know what I'm saying? Because at least you recognized it. Because I think that, as you said, that is the hardest thing. You're trying to be a business owner, but you're really jumping into the water, which is cool that you're doing that, but you don't really know how to navigate.
Yeah.
And there's so many people out there telling you, everybody's got something different to say. And you kind of get overwhelmed, like, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that. And then before you know it, you're doing 15 things, but you really don't have the revenue coming in. So you really have to kind of stop and say, wait, maybe I should pull back and think about this a little bit.
I think the biggest thing that probably frustrates me in the marketplace right now is a lot of the coaches that are out there. And I was just as guilty as a lot of the other coaches. I don't want to come across like I wasn't, but there's a lot of coaches that haven't been through the shit they're trying to coach on. And, I can coach sales all day long without even blinking twice, but I was trying to coach people how to run successful businesses, and do the mindset stuff toward your business. And I wasn't even running a successful business. And I think, a lot of people, when they jump out on their own, they have this mindset, oh, I'm going to be a coach, or I'm going to be a speaker. And they're teaching things they have no knowledge of, which just means they're regurgitating some shit they read or something they heard because it made them feel good at a seminar or something, and I wish somebody would have told me when I launched my business, but I had to learn this, the hard way, which is, go build a business, then do all the other shit. Right. Yeah. Don't go from 20 years of whatever you were passionate about and then, launch a business doing something you have no idea what the hell you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because by not having that baseline revenue stream, everything was an act of desperation. Everything was a Hail Mary pass.
Yeah. And that sucks.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a sucky feeling,
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people are doing that right now is they're looking at their business as every move's a Hail Mary, and they're hoping, okay, well, I'm going to do a video channel because that's going to bring me the clients, or I'm going to do a podcast because that's going to bring me the clients. I'm going to do lives because that's going to bring me the clients, and it all comes down to, if they're really at the heart of the matter, they don't know what they're selling. They don't know what their products are. They don't know what their services are. And, and this is not me bashing on anybody. This is just my story because it's exactly what I did, coming out the gate. And it's amazing, how either I'm a glutton for punishment or, because I really don't want to go back to corporate America, that has forced me to continue to push forward on all this.
That's how I feel. I'm not going back there. I never fit in anyways. I mean, even when I was being, doing my own thing. So I would rather follow my own sword than somebody else's sword. I guess that's the way I would think of it. Yeah. But there's comfort there, even because you know that you can do it with your eyes closed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can get a paycheck, but then you get unhappy because you're not using your gifts and you're not doing what you really want to do, and you're not making the impact that you can make.
Yep.
Saying something, by you going on stage and saying, one thing that you say can change somebody's life.
Yep.
If they take it the right way, it goes in and they're like, wait a minute, I never thought of that. Holy crap. I got to do that. Like, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Versus you just slugging it out every day. Yeah, you can do it, but are you lit up by it? Probably not. So I get that.
Yeah. And I going through all these trials that I've gone through with the business has really helped me, because I love going to seminars and conferences and things. But it's really helped me see through the bullshit.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of people selling shit. I mean, we're in such a great economy still that there's just so many gurus in the marketplace selling crap. I mean, when somebody can tell you they can, launch a podcast for you in 24 to 48 hours and be successful, I want to punch them in the fucking face. I mean,
a lot of work.
Yeah, anything you do that you're going to launch within 48 hours is just retarded.
Yeah, it's not going to be great.
No. And, You know, you also got these companies out there that are telling people, we're going to make you an influencer. You know, it's going to cost you $50,000 and you're going to be an influencer. No, they're going to buy you a bunch of followers and likes and, you know, all that stupid stuff. Go build a damn business, sell something, get a foundation and actually sell something. Quit doing what I do and quit trying to sell air.
Right. Right.
Air does not work.
Do you think that people have to, so everybody needs to have the experience before they can help others, right?
I 100%.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, if you've walked in my shoes, you know, and I've walked in your shoes, so I would know, but I haven't and you haven't. But
Yep.
say we did, then that's the stuff that you can help people with, because
Yes.
you know the landscape. I can say, I know this landscape really well because I maybe still be even dealing with it.
Yeah.
So in a way, though, that does make you the expert. It's not all the likes, it's not all the comments, which is great, but that makes you the expert because you've actually been there and you've been through it and you've come out the other side. It may not have been pretty, but you did it, and that's huge.
You know, and what struck me somewhere along the way was, you know, I was hiring coaches and, you know, not keeping them, but I've got a couple of coaches now, but a lot of these coaches that I was working with, there was no end date to the coaching. It's, you know, we're going to coach forever because, and it was almost from that mindset of you're going to need me forever.
Oh, no.
Right. You know, at some point I'm going to surpass your knowledge.
Yeah.
If I'm applying and learning and evolving. And what I realized is a lot of these coaches and things, and I'm not bashing on coaches, guys, I coach, you know, but a lot of these coaches out there, it's because they don't have a service that's continually bringing them business. They don't have a revenue model. They don't have a sales process or anything else. Every deal is an act of desperation. So if they land a client, they're holding on for dear life because they don't know where the next one's going to come from.
Right.
And I know I was almost a year into my business, and, you know, you hear things your entire journey and you coach people on the things that you've been through and done. But one of my old mentors called me up one day and he goes, Donnie, how's business? I said, we're surviving. You know, I'm still learning, got a lot of things going on. He goes, Donnie, where's your next 10 deals coming from? And I said, oh, no freaking clue. And he goes, that's why your business is going to fail. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, if you can't tell me where your next 10 deals are coming from, you don't have a business. You have a bad sales job. And I went, fuck, here I go. I did it again.
Wow.
So now that's the common theme in the business is where's the next 10 deals coming from? And I'll challenge every one of your listeners the same thing. Is if they don't know where their next 10 deals are coming from, they don't have a business. They have a bad sales job. Because imagine being in a sales job and you don't know who your prospects are to reach out and contact. You don't know who, you know, your key targets are you need to be talking to. You know, you're going to networking events, you're putting out social content, you're doing all the stuff, but you have no idea where the answers are going to come from. Right. It's a bad sales job. It's not a company. And that was a tough rude awakening for me because it was the absolute truth. Because that means you've got no systems in place, no processes, no procedures. And, you know, now it's, you know, we can damn near bet on what's the next move to bring in revenue to the company.
Wow. I never thought of it like that, but you're actually right, because the first thing you learn in Sales 101 is you've got to keep the coffers full, and you've got to make sure that, you know, as people go through the process, somebody takes their place, because what would they always ask you every month? What are you closing? Yep. Closing next month. And you have a list. You'd have an actual list. Same thing.
And now a lot of people are running their businesses and they don't have a list. Right. Because it usually comes back to, at least what it did for me, is it came back to is I was always confused on what I was selling. You know, am I selling this content stuff? Am I selling coaching? Am I selling speaking? I mean, what does somebody get from working with me? And, you know, the answer always kind of came back to me. It was like this weird ego thing is what they get me. Well, what the fuck does that even mean? They get me. Right. You know, you've got to be able to take somebody from in the words of a friend of mine, you know, Tracy, she says, you got to take them from stuck to unstoppable. Mm-hmm. And you got to walk them through each stage of that to get them where they want to go. And if you don't have that stage process you can take somebody through, what the hell are you selling?
So you've got the mindset that you need to do one thing, right? Because you can do a lot of things.
Yep.
You can do podcasting, you can do coaching, you can do speaking, there's a lot of revenue generating things that you can do, a lot of streams that you have. And maybe you can do them all, but for somebody who's just starting out, they need to just pick one thing and stay in that one lane and just forget the rest of the stuff until they get revenue coming in.
Absolutely. Because what people don't even think about, I'm just talking about the speaking side of things. I didn't understand how tough the speaking world is.
Is it really? I don't know about that.
Oh, it's
so easy.
So what you got to think about is, so you and I met at that summit.
Mm-hmm.
How many people in that room of 150 people were speakers?
Quite a few.
90% of that room, I'm betting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, that was just one conference.
Mm-hmm.
Now, imagine how many conferences go across throughout the year. How many speakers were at that event?
It's a lot of competition.
Yeah. So
it's
huge,
way.
Yeah. Right? So now, not only do you got to, one, learn how to give a real damn speech.
Which is an art in itself.
100%. And a lot, what I found out the hard way is I'm a Q&A speaker, right? I don't want to stand up and keynote. I want to come up and give you context and then say, okay, let's go. Because that's what I did in sales training. Because there was no point in me in sales training standing in front of a room and say, okay, let me teach you sales. No, here's the theory. Here's the thing we're working on. Cool. Where are you struggling? And then I could coach and help them out from the front of the room, help out hundreds. So I've always spoken that way. And a lot of your big conferences, they want keynotes. They don't want, interactive things. So I was having to learn how to do keynotes. Well, to get there, these big conferences and everything else that want to bring the speakers in, they don't want to bring in an unknown.
No.
Right? They're not going to bring in
much of a risk.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they got people paying, thousands of dollars to do these things. There's no risk. So now it's okay. How do I find the smaller events and smaller venues? Now you're in full research mode, full reaching out. It's a full on sales game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're building Rolodex. And, I had interviewed a guy on my podcast, Jeff, and, he does probably 1 to 2 speeches, 5,000 plus, per speech, a month. He's got a Rolodex of over 30,000 event planners and contacts that he's just put together over the last 10 years.
Wow.
That he's constantly reaching out and interacting. And I don't want to dissuade people from getting in the speaking game, but if you're trying to get in the speaking game and you're trying to launch a podcast, you're trying to launch a video channel, you're trying to do this, you're doing everything half-assed, right? Pick a lane and freaking go, because I was trying to do them all. And although it was fun to have people walk up to me and say, hey, you're freaking everywhere. I was like, yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah. But if you're everywhere and it's not leading to revenue, then you're not doing anything.
Right.
And that was the story of my business, but for me, coming back to podcasting, that's how I got to Florida at the summit we met at. And that's how I got to Ireland. That's how I'm going to London.
That's so cool. That's so cool. You got to be proud of yourself for that. I mean, you've really done a lot, and now you're successful because you're helping other people be successful.
Right. It's given me some good, I don't get gray hairs anymore. It's all chrome.
Good vibes. Your wife's happy. Everything's good.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been a journey, man, but I want everybody to totally embrace and understand that, there's a reason there's not many successful entrepreneurs in the world, because this is one thing that I was told prior to launching my business is you're going to discover more about yourself than any other endeavor you've done in life, because this will be the first time in your life you fully bet on yourself.
Right.
Because when every action you take dictates the future of your company and the future of where your life is, you learn really quick what you're made of.
Really quick. This is the first time I've gone all in on myself.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to give up. It's just, like you said, you've got to learn. You just got to learn the right ways to do things. And it's not like, the good news is that you've already walked the path, right? So there are people that are doing it. You just need to figure out and surround yourself with the right people. Yeah.
And here's a barometer anybody can use to understand if they're actually going for it or not. If shit's not breaking, you're not going for it.
Really?
If shit is not fucking up, if things aren't falling apart, you're not going for it. And the reason I say that is because you're scattered. Because when you go all in on and like pick one area, you try and dominate it, things are going to break. Things are going to go screwy. Things are going to go haywire. And that's when you start learning. But if the things aren't breaking, you're not going big enough. And I've learned that time and time again, because we all love our comfort zone. Right. We all love. And so there's a lot of times we'll look at the end of the day and go, man, this day felt good.
Yeah.
And then look back at what you actually did. Did you actually accomplish anything?
Right.
Or did you just work a job all day? And I'm not the grind mentality, right? I'm not the Gary V, put 20 hours in a day type mentality. I'm not that at all. But I do know that there was a lot of times along my journey that I look back over the day and went, holy shit, I didn't really do anything. I did a lot of freaking busy work that describes itself as business development.
Right. But it's not.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You got to know. Yeah. You've got to know the difference, and that's answering emails and stuff. It's all important. But at the end of the day, you really need to have the revenue coming in.
Yep. And it's a good test. I mean, a lot of people can't tell you their numbers. They can't tell you how much revenue is coming in this month, where it's coming from, how they're creating more revenue next month. I mean, it's, as I said, when you're an employee, you don't have to worry about all that stuff. They tell you what the numbers are. They tell you what you got to be, and you just go get it done. Right. Right. Now you got to set it all. Right. And it's learning to enjoy that process. Right. And keep stepping.
Damn, you're amazing, Donnie. I can't thank you for having me on. This guy, I honestly, I mean, I don't know. You have just really a good way of making things that are difficult seem simple to me to understand. And it's just, I just think that that's awesome. And I also love that you don't sugarcoat anything, because I'm the same way. And it's just, I appreciate that, because, a lot of these coaches and people that are talking, they get up there and it's all a lot of fluff. And it's just kind of like the politics, right? They didn't answer the question. It's like, I just need to know, how do I get from here to there? And where am I going wrong? And a lot of times you have to do that yourself. And that's the hard part. These are hard questions that you're asking yourself. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I'm going to get to next month. I don't know where my next deal is coming from. And that's when you really have to sit down and say, if I don't know, I got to stop for a minute. Everything should stop until I figure this out. And you're right about that. And I really appreciate you saying that to me, because I didn't realize that. I'm doing all these things and they are really good things. But when you're only focused on getting yourself out there, which is important, it's just a hard line, right? You're trying to get out there and be known, because when you start, nobody knows who you are. So you need exposure, but you also need the revenue. And you also want to co-create with other people too. And you want to kind of, get to know them a little bit to see how you can help them and their listeners.
Yeah. Well, and I like calling it all the machine, because that's the way I look at it. Your business should be a machine, and machine requires you to push the button and everything goes. And if you keep building it that way, that you aren't the cogs in there making your business go, then you're building things the right way. And, it's like, you can go be the exposure queen. You can go get on all the podcasts and everything else, but you better know exactly how many interviews you need to do before you start generating revenue. Right. You better know the right calls to action to go on those shows to get people to respond. You better know how to interact with that host to, get the people to raise their hand saying they want more information, because exposure without a revenue model is almost worthless. Right. Yeah. And, guys, you got to look at it this way. I'm only speaking this because people call me, my style, jarhead gentle is what everybody refers it to. It's like, he's almost like being an asshole without being an ass,
I never heard of that before.
No, I was giving a speech in Arlington, Texas one time, and a gal in the crowd said, you just really have this jarhead gentle style to you. So it's
that's so funny. That's funny.
But that's it is, by me sharing the crap I've been through and as real as I can, and letting my because, I was a guy who grew up really worried about what everybody else thought about me,
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And so it's been very, very difficult to more document my journey and share, the shitty side of everything. Because, here's another fun fact is I hated reaching out for help.
Oh, so
going
do I.
through this, right?
Oh, so do I. Oh, yeah, I got this. I can do this. I can do this.
And I don't want anybody to see that I'm failing. I don't want anybody to see if I got to ask for help, then I'm screwing up.
Right.
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 You know?
Yes.
And
yes.
It's a weird game. And the person who succeeds in life knows how to ask the right questions, and that's either of themselves or of others.
Right.
And any entrepreneur that creates an island loses
by themselves. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You need to raise your hand. It's okay. It's okay. You shouldn't feel bad about it either. Don't beat yourself up about it.
100%.
Yeah. We were trained that way. So at least, you know, and, you know, I always make the joke, yeah, my arm's falling off, but I'm okay. Don't worry about me. And that's just not the way to go, because there's somebody out there that can help you, and they can help you tremendously. And sometimes it doesn't cost money. Sometimes, like I was saying, you get on stage or you're on a podcast and somebody's listening in their car, and just what you said just goes in, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's it. That's what I need to do. Or that's what I'm not doing, and that's what I need to focus on. Yep. And so you just never know how far your words are going to carry with somebody, but they're definitely going to change lives. So I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you being you and sharing some of the stuff that's not exactly fun, but I think this is real and it's really helpful. And I know our listeners can really I got a lot out of it, and I know they're going to too. So I really appreciate it, Donnie. How can people find you?
Couple of fun ways. You can always find me on DonnieBoivin.com. That's my website. A lot of fun stuff there. But if you really want to interact and talk with me, jump on Facebook. I got 2 groups. One's called Donnie Success Champions. Same thing as my podcast. Come hang out. There's 550 some odd members in there, and we are active as hell. Always learning. You know, it's uplifting. It's a fun community. And then for podcasting, I have another group called So You Want a Podcast. So it's You Want a Podcast. Nice. And I teach everything I do podcasting. And the reason I started that group, and I've had a lot of people come through that group, they're like, so how are you turning this into a revenue model? And I'm not. I'm just teaching podcasting. And the reason I'm teaching podcasting in there is because it did so much for me. Doesn't mean down the road I may put a revenue model to it, but I just know there's a lot of shitty gurus in the market, in the podcasting space right now, touting really bad advice and don't even have successful shows themselves, and are trying to teach podcasting. So I'm trying to be the anti-asshole in that regards, because I can go a little bigger and louder than they can.
And if all else fails, you can still blow some shit up, Donnie. So you're going to be
exactly right. Exactly right. For me, I love speaking on stage. I mean, that's probably my favorite place to be. And I love it when I can just walk on the stage and I'm like, where are my badasses at? And the room goes nuts.
Yeah.
Because usually in like events where you and I met, you kind of got this almost stoic atmosphere of everything. And then I love coming in and throwing a monkey wrench.
And it's just like everyone opens up. That's the awesome part.
Yeah.
And then everybody gets real, though. That's the part that I like. It's not, there's no masks. Everybody's just real. And it's like, yeah, I'm really struggling here.
Yeah.
And then you can help them, well, I've been there. Let me show you the way. Let me lighten your load a little bit. That's what I'm trying to do is I want to help people. I don't want you to struggle like I struggled, because it sucks. It's really difficult. So if I can help and you can help, then it's a great thing. I'm going to have all your links listed too, by the way.
So, one more event I should tell everybody, I keep forgetting it, is I partnered up with Krissa and Laura DeFranco. I forget Chris's last name. She's got a really long last name, but to do the Unleash Your Marketing Warrior event in Baltimore. We're doing that in September.
Oh,
so
wow.
Laura DeFranco is a masterful writer. She's going to walk people through how to write their book, get published, the whole 9 yards. Krissa is an international speaker coach, teaching people how to get on stages and develop and do their speeches. I'm coming in to speak on podcasting in the morning and then actually sales in the afternoon.
Sweet.
So, but it's called Unleash Your Marketing Warrior.
Know the dates?
September 5th. So it's going to be an all-day event. I know tickets are starting to move really, really, really fast. It's going to be intimate. I think there's only allowed to be 50 people at the event.
Okay.
And I know they're moving very, very, very rapidly. I know Lorianne Von Speaks is one of the sponsors of the event.
Yep.
She's amazing with what she does. So, but it's really a place for people who are trying to really break into the speaker, podcaster, book writing industries to really come hang their hats up. I mean, you're getting three badasses, intimately.
Yeah.
50 people in the room, you're gonna have a really close conversation. So
yeah. And Baltimore, that's not far at all. Well,
yeah.
for me, it's kind of far for you, but still
It's just
awesome.
a hop, skip, and a jump. Everything's a plane ride. So
yeah, right. Just
it'll probably take me longer to drive to the airport than to fly to Baltimore. So.
Exactly.
So.
Well, Donnie, thanks a million for being here. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate all your wisdom, and I'm going to have all your links and your profile up, and people can reach you on Facebook. They can go to I really think this Baltimore thing might be good, though. I think we should check that out. Is the website up for that? Do you know?
Yeah, it is. It is.
It is.
I'll get you the link for that.
Unleash.
But they should be able to just Google Unleash Your Marketing Warrior.
Marketing Warrior?
Yeah.
That's super cool. And then your next speaking gig, you're going to be up speaking soon?
So I've got a couple of local events. Baltimore's the next big. Well, I'm doing. So I just got approved to be one of the Vistage speakers. So I'm doing a bunch of private Vistage events.
Sweet.
Which I didn't even know there was a Vistage speaker circuit.
I didn't
but if
either.
CEOs are your target, a lot of people should look into it because they have Vistage groups all over the U.S. And they're paid.
I had
speaking
no
engagements.
idea.
Yeah, a friend of mine runs one of the Vistage groups, and I reached out to her because a lot of more people are bringing me in to speak on podcasting. And I said, would podcasting work? And then she goes, yeah, because nobody's doing it. It's a totally unique thing. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Yes, that's perfect.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
So,
wow, damn, you're doing good things.
Just keep dabbling, guys. I mean, that's half the battle. Pick a lane, go, and then keep tasting, keep trying, keep screwing shit up,
and go all in.
Go all in
on one thing.
Yep.
One lane.
Yep. Get narrow, and
you.
The fun thing is once you get narrow and you get it right, then you can start just expanding out to all the other things.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, Donnie. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. Thanks.
All right.